Hey everybody, Strone here with another first edition video. It is errata Monday. It's the first Monday of the month. So first edition Game Changes update has been released. I just recently got back from my trip. I hope I hope you've all had a good week and a half since you last watched one of my videos. I did come back with a bit of a cold. This is unsurprising. I usually catch some kind of local cold or whatever whenever I travel. When you're hopping airlines and then you're going to a new place, it just seems inevitable, traveling in the middle of winter. So I apologize if I start coughing, sneezing, whatever. Um, but yeah, I had a great time. Um, and it was quite relaxing, thoroughly enjoyable. It was great to get away. Um, if you haven't gone on a vacation this year, I hope you at home are able to go on one sometime soon. They're always great. Anyway, so let's take a look here and see what was released today. So they put out the article for today. Charlie put out the article listing the changes. Um, Nothing was banned today, but it would appear that we got a bunch of cards back, as anticipated. And here's the cards that we got back. So as anticipated, we got the Cafe d'Artiste and a Study Divergent History back. We surprisingly got I've Been Waiting for You and Orb Experience back so quickly. And then, of course, the other three are the real shockers. The Navigate Plasma Storms getting kind of a clarification errata, and then Brain Disruptor Burst coming back in a significantly toned down form. But the biggest shock is that Sherlock Holmes has finally come back after all these years of being on the banned list. It has came back, and we'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. We'll save that one for the end to talk about it, because it's kind of the most, in my personal opinion, it's the biggest one of this entire group. So, the cafe, as anticipated, it has just simply come back where it's been toned down to just once each turn. It's still keeping the romantic partner download at the cost of discarding the incident. It is still unique. So it is still a very good card. It is still a single seed draw engine, and single seed draw engines in this game are pretty good. Outside of Borg, every affiliation has some kind of romantic partnership that you can exploit. And so, as a single seed card draw engine, Cafe is going to continue to be really, really good. So, I've Been Waiting for You is now limited to just once every turn. Place to exchange your unique hologram and play with a unique hologram personnel from your hand. So no more infinite exchange shenanigans, no more, and no more, unfortunately, well, for better or for worse, no more being able to do it like several times during a mission attempt to try to cheat skills around and stuff like that. So, it may still see play. It's kind of hard to say. I don't know. This may have killed this card, but I mean, it was in its previous form. It was getting abused, so I think the change needed to be made. Orb Experience. This is a tough one for me personally. This has been a long time personal favorite card of mine. Played it a couple of months ago at a tournament and abused it, which is the reason why it got put on the ban list. So it probably did need to go on the ban list and get an errata and get toned down. So now it reads, the first part remains the same, it's just the second part. Instead of being able to just every time you play an orb experience, you get to just look if you have an orb. It's now been limited to once per game per orb that you have in play. So if you just acquire one orb with, say, recover stolen material plus hereby invitations download of an objective of return orb to Bajor, and you get one early. You can orb experience one time. This is still good. Don't get me wrong, that is still good. When you pair it with the fact that Deep Space Nine will be seeding at a space mission in order to do that, you can acquire the orb, bounce off a dilemma, whatever dilemma's first, and then, or if Deep Space Nine is at like in the deck that I played, you put Deep Space Nine at Bajor, so you would beam down, get the orb at Bajor, and then you would move Deep Space Nine. You would use Quark's rods to download the Miles O'Brien that downloads the reactor, the reaction control thrusters. You'd move Deep Space Nine over the space mission, then you'd have the science lab peek at a dilemma. So in that kind of a setup, you're getting basically 3 dilemma peaks still. You're getting the bounce off dilemma at Bajor that you're just committed to seeing on the first turn and you don't care, you just take that hit. So you get to see that one, and then you move Deep Space Nine, you'll use the science lab to peek, and then you can use orb experience to peek at the second one to see what it is that they're trying to set you up for. And so it's still going to be good. It's not going to be like abused where you can just see like dilemmas everywhere. And so it's still going to be good. It's just that now it has been significantly toned down, and you need multiple orbs if you want to take multiple peaks, which, may very well be worth it. At the very least, a player would have the option of using the you can use the space mission that allows you to seed any number of orb artifacts at it. Let's see here. Characterized neutrino emissions, any number of orb artifacts may seed here. So you could just go ahead and put, if you want to invest the seed slots, you could seed each of the different physical orbs under there, so you can get multiple peaks by solving that mission first. Because you'd be seeding them normally, they'd go to the back of the stack, and so you'd be able to use the science lab to peek at the first one, the first dilemma there. So might be worth doing. Because right now, you can do Orb Fragment, you can do Orb of Prophecy and Change, you can do Orb of Time, you can do Orb of Wisdom. So it looks like there's 4 then. You can see 4 different physical orbs underneath that mission, and therefore be able to get 4 different peaks at dilemmas and stuff. Is that worth it? Hard to say. You don't have to do all 4. You could do 2, you could do 3. It's kind of up to what you want to do. I mean, obviously, Orb of Wisdom also gets you free play and a boost to your integrity. Orb of Time would allow you to time travel as well. And Orb of Prophecy and Change is pretty good because it allows you to manipulate the top card of your deck, which means that you're better at doing... your Orb of Prophecy and Change is going to tell you whether or not you win at Dabo. It's also going to tell you whether or not Promenade Shops will be a successful probe or not. So, there's always the outside chance that you want to play an Orb Fragment deck where you're like, okay, where you play Orb Fragment and you try to play Delrock on your opponent. That's terrible, but if you want to do it, you could. But yeah, I mean, you could seed, and if you're really honest, you could seed Mysterious Orb underneath there. Well, just invest 5 seed slots, do all the orbs, do a thematic deck. It might be fun. So yeah, but as it is, Orb Experience has now been toned down a little bit, and that's fine. I'm more annoyed by the fact that I have to reprint multiple copies of Orb Experience now. That's probably the most annoying thing about it. Navigate plasma storms has just basically been it's been errata to just under so that it works both alpha quadrant and mirror quadrant badlands. Now that rules has also clarified the ruling on that a card can only affect a planet, space mission, or region that exists in both the alpha and mirror quadrants if the card affecting it is mirror, or if it specifically calls out that it can affect both quadrants. So now this one just basically says even mirror quadrant on it. So Navigate Plasma Storms itself is not like a highly used card, but you know there have been some decks in historically that have played it for different reasons. Study Divergent History has now also been restricted to the once each turn. Instead of being able to do it twice, you can only do it once. It's also been restricted that it can no longer plan any headquarters. It's just a mirror headquarters now. So right here, it was changed to just a mirror headquarters. But guest quarters is still something that can be in the alpha quadrant. So, you know, if you want to put Study Divergent History on your Deep Space Nine, excuse me, on your Deep Space Nine, or on a Universal Nor or your MPOC Nor, you can. So the alpha quadrant will still be able to use this because the other three parts of it are pretty much mirror quadrant only. But it's a good card. It's still a good card. Still a single seed draw engine. Brain Disruptor Burst. So they took the attack down by 1, boosted the attack bonus if it's a Breen ship, and then they took the weapons reduction out, and they knocked the hull down, damage down by 5%. So it's no longer 3 flips to destroy a ship with Brain Disruptor Burst. It now takes 4. And it no longer damages the weapons on top of it. So I feel like this is a really good balance. Because now, I mean, the fact that, I mean, the attack bonus going down by 1 in and of itself is good enough to, like, open up the door to a lot of other tactics. And this will no longer be, like, the tactic du jour, just for that reason alone, and the rest of it's just makes it even more better, more balanced. So this will still be a really great tactic in Dominion decks because excuse me, a lot of Dominion decks will get a Jem'Hadar warship and then a Breen warship. So, all right, Sherlock Holmes. His change is his 5th skill here. At the start of your turn, you may draw a card if opponent has more cards in hand than you. This is, I think, really good. I also think that it is very balanced because your opponent is going to be able to decide, you know, they're going to know whether or not they're going to end up getting more cards in hand, because they'll have the end of their turn and then you'll have the start of your turn. So at the end of their turn, they will know whether or not they're going to end up giving themselves more cards in hand than you. But then there's a little bit of gamesmanship where if you, as the player with Sherlock Holmes, have like an interrupt that you could play, you know, you might actually end up inadvertently, you might be able to actually, you know, squeeze an extra card draw out, so then like the interrupt that you play to go down by 1 card actually kind of cantrips itself. I think realistically in most games, players are going to be more concerned with just playing their deck out optimally and not necessarily worrying about their opponent's Sherlock Holmes getting them that extra card draw. So I think that in most situations, Sherlock Holmes is just going to happen or he's not. If you are yourself playing a fast deck, one that can dump cards from hand, Sherlock Holmes is going to be a pretty reliable draw. So that means card decks that are playing a significant or not insignificant number of interrupts in them, doorways, etc. So Sherlock Holmes is definitely going to feed decks that are playing like Holodeck Door. They're going to feed decks that play like, that have like three play engines in them, right? So you're still going to have your card play. You're going to have up to three free card plays, and then you're going to also possibly have like Holodeck Door and stuff like that. So Sherlock Holmes is definitely going to fuel some decks again, as he did back in the day when he had his broken version. He is still going to fuel some decks. He's going to do it in a much more limited fashion, but the way the game is right now, he is still going to fuel it, especially since you can guarantee him on turn 1 because you just have to play with the Holo program. So you just have to play with Holo program 221B Baker Street because it seeds or plays on your ship or facility with a holodeck. That's super easy. And then in place of your normal card play, you may download Sherlock Holmes aboard. So he would take up your first turn download of a person, but you guarantee him aboard. And so if you have a good opening hand and you can drop a bunch of cards into play on turn 1 from your hand and your opponent isn't necessarily able to, then you're able to kind of get off and going like right away. So I think that's pretty good. I think the Sherlock Holmes also does count as any data. So another card that had kind of come back, into the realm from being banned and then was errated and kind of came back in is data keep dealing. If you have any data in play, look at the top 2 cards and bottom 2 cards of your draw deck, replace in any order the top 2 and or 2 on top and 2 on bottom. So you have to so you take the top 2 of your deck and the bottom 2 of your deck, and then you pick which 2 go to the top, which 2 go to the bottom. This is very good for, again, setting up for promenade shops. It's good for setting up for Dabo. It's good for setting up for probes at Cochrane Memorial is a really good one. And so I think that there is going to be, with Sherlock Holmes coming back into play, I think an Enterprise E deck that downloads Sherlock Holmes on its first turn and plays data keep dealing in order to kind of try to manipulate the top of its deck for Visit Cochrane Memorial. I think that will be something that players can do to, in an efficient and positive manner, because a lot of those decks play with a lot of fed people in them, and then they need to play some interrupts in order to kind of get some free plays out of it too. And so data keep dealing then becomes like the interrupt that you're doing for the free plays. If you really want to get fancy about it, you could play Enterprise E with Bajorans. I mean, that's pretty typical, but what would make it fancy is if you wanted to combine that idea with my suggestion earlier, you could play Enterprise E with Bajorans, and then you could play with the characterized neutrino emissions, and you can try to do characterized neutrino emissions first that has several orbs seated underneath it, and you try to bust that mission up quickly, get your orbs, and then do orb experiences, and then the orb experiences and your data keep dealings are the interrupts that are fueling free plays. And so you would have Earth, you would have the Bajor region, and then you would be, kind of able to do those things, because you could then play with your free plays would then be Enterprise E personnel, Bajoran Resistance personnel, Kai's Vedics, etc., with Chamber of Ministers, and so you kind of have enough free play engines there, because you would have I mean, you have 3 free play engines right there. Plus the Cocker Memorial is going to act as a draw engine slash play engine. And so, like, you're able to then definitely kind of get that going. So I think that is a deck that to look out for. I'm definitely considering building that as the next deck I play for First Edition Friday. So keep a lookout for my next video. It might be that, it might be something different, but I'm leaning strongly towards that being the next deck that we work on for First Edition Friday. So, you know, when I get that recorded and put out, you'll know about it. So make sure that you hit the notification bell and subscribe to my channel so that you're notified for when my next First Edition Friday video does come out again. So, but that's the 8 cards that came out. Feel free to leave your own thoughts in the comments section below. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and so forth. And may the profits be with you.